Can you hear me now? Yes, now you can hear me. I am terribly sorry about that. This is Hudzio, the old school gamer, of course, the Ironheart of Xbox, and welcome to Gamers Play. Like I told you, there's been a lot of issues with my computers. I've been trying to figure out what's been going on with it, and I'm trying to give you the best content I possibly can. So, of course, you can hit that bell. Please hit that bell and also subscribe to my channel if you like my content. I am actually going to readjust and actually move forward. And of course, like I told you, said before, while my microphone was muted, a lot of great stuff's been happening. A lot of great stuff has been happening. Tuesday has been this amalgam of amazing happenings. The ABK deal that's over in Brussels. Microsoft actually, have a contract with Nintendo for 10 years, and so on, and so it's just a lot to unravel. So let's just bear with me. So let's get through the good stuff, shall we? All right, but first, let's get started with some, a little bit of cleanup. Like I mentioned before, this channel is all about the gamers, and of course, I actually had some good conversations with some amazing content creators. Infinite Umbra, shout out to you, bro. Hey, listen, man. I completely understand. You know what? We have to embrace the name as gamers, but as gamers, we also have to learn about this. Everybody individually has their own responsibility to actually make gamers what it's, how as great as it's supposed to be. So it's up to you, the viewers, the gamers out there, to, hey, be cool, enjoy the game. It's all about the games, bro. Just have a good time, and share the experiences. There's a lot of games out there, whether you're on Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox, PC, Steam, mobile, whatever it is. Game on, man. Game on. So, let's start with the first content. It's really, really, really interesting. Let's get started with some good stuff here. As you all know, Atomic Heart actually came out today, as you all know, and Atomic Heart is one of those games that had a lot of controversy behind it, and trust me, it's just it's hard to to really to imagine that a game like this has so much behind it, and let's just get into the good stuff, shall we? So, as you all know, Atomic Heart was actually announced, I believe it was in 2000, I think it was 2018, 2019, and it's made by a company called Mudfish, and they a small little company, I believe, is on the outskirts of Russia, and ever since there was a huge war between Ukraine and, of course, Russia, there's been a lot of controversy behind many companies, whether supporting Ukraine or supporting Russia. Well, it turns out that Mudfish, this company, has some. Let's just put it this way: it had some very controversial things behind it. So let's get into the facts, shall we? Let's see if I can actually get that here. this. Here we go. So, it turns out that Ukraine is actually asking for atomic heart ban from Sony, Microsoft, and Valve. Now, you all know that this company has, really had some, some issues with the companies that actually are, supporting Mudfish, because Mudfish, unfortunately, as I go into some details here, has been receiving allegedly has some ties to the Russian state owned energy corporation Gazprom. And as you all know, since all this propaganda has been going on, Mudfish has not really been forthcoming to actually being against the war in Ukraine. Even though they're on the outskirts of Ukraine, I believe, I think it was in Cyprus, which is actually about, I forgot how many miles, like about 100 miles away from the center of Russia. But right now, this is actually a quote directly from those in the Ukraine Deputy Administrator of Digital Affairs. He says, "We also call for the limiting the distribution of this game in other countries due to its toxicity, potential collection of user data, and the possibility of transferring it to third parties in Russia, as well as the potential use of money raised from games purchases to wage war against Ukraine." Now, right now, it's not the only criticism that that Atomic Heart is facing also, but now that it's released, players have noticed that there's actually been a character that's been based on the former Ukrainian prime minister. So there must be some kind of likeness inside the game. I'm actually not even 20 minutes into the game, and I haven't noticed that yet. But they said there's actually a likeness in there, and also there's been known to have some imagery also. But it's gotten very, very, very serious now that video games kind of cross the line between politics and wars and controversy between, and also everything in between. Folks, this is, I'm actually on the fence, because look, I'm a gamer and I game and I actually like games, and it looked very interesting. But I've been also noticing the game, yes, it's clunky. It's there's a lot of control issues in the game. They don't really give you that much instruction on how to use the character. There was actually a patch, I think later this evening, I think it was, for like 67 megabytes or something like that, or was it gigs? 65 gigabytes, to, I guess, to fix a lot of the issues that they had in the game. But now it turns out that they want the game to be removed, and they want Nintendo, Sony, and also Valve to cooperate and to remove the game from sales. They don't want the game to be sold via digitally, because they fear that the information that the game might be giving, user data, and also funding to propaganda that's happening over in Russia on the other side. I understand what's been going on. The thing, I just want a game. I just want to have great. It looks like a very interesting game, and it looks very fun. It's almost like a Russia that would have happened if the war actually was different back in World War One. I think it was World War Two. And how technology would have been a bigger part of everyone's everyday life. But I don't know. I'm on the fence. I don't know how to respond to this, because I obviously don't want to say anything. I don't want to say anything wrong. I actually am for Ukraine. Even Mick Mick Gordon, he actually lent his talents to this game, and he actually did the soundtrack to this game. But the thing is that he's actually saying that he's actually funding through the UK, I think is the Red Cross, what have you, towards Ukraine, for Ukraine, and it's sad that all these things, that could be good out of the game, but there's also a evil side to it as well. But then again, it's also convoluted in between. So I don't know what to tell you. So my thing is, it's really up to you. If you want to support this game, or if you want to play this game, support it. But if you don't want to support the game, I completely understand too. It's all about preference. So I don't know. I'm on the fence about a lot of things, especially when it boils down to I think that is sorry about that. The title screen was actually did it again. I have no idea why he did that. It's about what you as a gamer want to play, because I try not to think. I try not to think about the politics behind the games. I really want to get into games. I play the games because of the games. I don't think nothing behind it. I don't care about the politics. I don't care about all the drama, and all that stuff, and who's exchanging. The entertainment is what it's all about. It's about the entertainment. It's about the gaming. I don't know. But anyway, let's get on to some other news, shall we? It turns out that some other news. If I can actually get to what my news actually is. It turns out that our good friends over at Bethesda, ID, is coming out with another Doom. But it's not exactly what you think. And let's just get into it, shall we? Yeah. It's actually called it's gonna be a mobile game. Let's just put it out there, okay? I mean, don't get me wrong. I love shooters. I mean, that's at first I thought it was a toy. To be honest with you, when I saw that, it's a mini Slayer. See that? I thought it was me. When I first saw this, I thought, hey, shoot, mini Slayer, sweet. So that way you can actually. I thought it was like a new toy, but then I saw this. I said, what? What is this? And I was getting those vibes from if you remember the Gears pop. I was getting that vibe, and I was like, oh no, not again, no, not again. But then I started looking at it. I was like, oh, it's a twin stick shooter type of game. I was like, okay, cool. You know what? I can vibe with this. I mean it eased my pain a little bit. It looks like that you actually, it's a mobile game. I'm pretty sure it's going to be available for Android and also, I think iPhone. I guess Apple Arcade. I don't know. No, we'll see. Yeah, it looks like just iPhone. Or Android. Look, I have nothing against. I have nothing against. Nothing against games like this. Besides, my gosh, I have nothing against certain games like that. I have nothing against mobile games, but personally, when it boils down to it, I was looking for something different. I thought it was going to be a pop toy or like one of those miniature toys that could be able to put on my shelf. Excuse me. But I don't know. What do you think? Me personally, I'm not a fan. I like twin shooters, but I was hoping that was going to be for console. That would be nice for console. Twin stick shooter. Use your controller. Jump on the controller. Twin stick shooter. Sweet. That would have been awesome. But a mobile game. Mobile game. I am not a mobile guy. I don't play games on mobile besides a couple of games and maybe cross worlds or whatever. But Doom. Doom. Mighty Doom. Well, so look forward to Mighty Doom. It's coming out soon. I might play it. I don't know. I might play it. Maybe. If I'm really into it. I don't know. I'm hoping that I don't know. I'm hoping that it actually is good. So I'm hoping it is good. Anyway, moving on to the next phase. Let's talk about PlayStation. Yes, PlayStation. It turns out this coming Thursday, we are going to be getting the PlayStation State of Play. That's right. State of Play is going to be coming this coming Thursday. And they're going to feature, get this, Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League. It turns out that they might have a marketing deal with the DC and WB. I mean, if that's going to be the feature game, I have a feeling that Sony somehow, some way, got their hands on a marketing deal with Suicide Squad. But it says right here, tune in February 23rd for exciting updates for our third-party partners, including PSVR 2 reveals and an in-depth look at Suicide Squad. Says right here that it says get ready for new looks at some anticipated games from our third-party partners, as well as the first glimpse at 5 PlayStation VR 2 games set to arrive later this year. So that means your VR 2 is going to be getting some love. And there's going to be more than 15 minutes of all new gameplay details and updates on Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League, the next game from Rocksteady Studios. Now I'm actually trying to figure out if is that going to be the only I think this says third party partners, so that means there might be some other games that might be that's actually part of it. So it's possibly going to be, I don't know, maybe some other titles, maybe some smaller titles coming out, maybe some indie titles. We don't know, but it's something to look forward to. I mean, and also if you have the VR, the VR2, you have some games to look forward to. And rumor has it that, I mean, they might show off. I believe. Oh my goodness gracious! Oh yes, they might show off. What do you call it? Half-Life Alyx. Maybe Half-Life Alyx will actually make its debut. I heard a rumor that Half-Life Alyx might be a part of VR2. But I think the time is going to be it's actually going to be at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. So something to look forward to. It's going to be on Twitch and YouTube. So that's something to look forward to. Maybe they'll have some surprises. I don't know if they're going to do any shadow drops like Xbox did before. But we'll see. We will definitely see. So let's get to the big news, shall we? And oh yeah, if you actually haven't done it before, please, why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Hit the subscribe button. Hit that bell. Show me some love. See what's going on with that. Let's get into the nitty-gritty. It turns out that ABK, the ABK deal, has had some big moves from Microsoft. Personally, this news is it kind of blew me away. So let's get into it. Yeah, it says, as it happened, Microsoft's Activision Blizzard press conference in Brussels. It happened earlier today. Brad Smith and Phil Spencer was actually in a meeting, as well as some other executives from, I believe, from Nvidia, Sony, I believe also some representatives from Nintendo, and I think from Tencent as well was there. Microsoft's Brad Smith and Phil Spencer briefed the media after a closed hearing at the European Commission in Brussels. So let's get some highlights that's going on that happened over there, because there's a lot of details in there. First of all, Microsoft proposed to buy Activision Blizzard in January. Let's just kind of, it's just actually pretty much up to date what's been happening, and then it got the approval of regulators, but got stalled by regulators in the Federal Trade Commission in the U.S. and of course in Europe, the European Commission, and of course the UK, the Competition and Markets Authority. And then U.S. process requires FCC to take Microsoft to court. And there's concerns, of course, around Call of Duty. And the only person that voiced it was to compare it with PlayStation. PlayStation actually argued it would cause a large number of players to leave its platform. Yada yada, and so on. I mean, that's all the pretty much all the up to date stuff. Of course, they're talking about. Microsoft holding a strong position in Game Pass, game streaming, other advantages. This is all their arguments, by the way. And then, of course, Microsoft's biggest counter to these concerns is they actually promised to keep Call of Duty with content parity on the PlayStation for 10 years. That's a contract that they actually promised. They said, hey, we got a contract for 10 years. And it turns out that, during this meeting, it turns out that Brad Smith, he got on that stage and buddy, let's just put it this way. I can't call him Mick Jagger, but man, he had some swagger. So let's see. This is actually in military time, so I'd say that's about 5 p.m. So let's see, 5 p.m. It says, hello, we're in Brussels, blah, blah, blah. Meeting with Sony in Piers, European Commission, now about to brief the media. And then here we go, Brad Smith is on stage. He's to brief the media. Brad Smith actually at Microsoft, and that's a new deal with NVIDIA. So check this out. So NVIDIA has actually had a deal, cut a contract. NVIDIA has cut a contract with Microsoft to actually be able to put Xbox games, not Xbox PC games, on their streaming service with NVIDIA's GeForce. And now the server, because the service already has about 25 billion players, so now they have access to that and also Call of Duty. And they have a 10-year contract with Microsoft. So now it turns out that NVIDIA has to deal with it. All right, let's get into the weaves of that one. Let's talk about that. So it turns out that Microsoft signs a 10-year Call of Duty deal with NVIDIA. Here's some of the details. Microsoft has announced a second 10-year Call of Duty deal has been made and signed, and hours after the reveal of the Nintendo deal. Now, originally they actually signed with Nintendo, and this was like a while ago. But now it's actually pretty much set in stone. So this is the second contract they must have did recently, and they made a deal with NVIDIA to actually have Xbox games on their NVIDIA GeForce streaming service, which is huge, because of course they actually want it to grow. They don't want to be in an enclosed environment. They want the games to be played everywhere, and that's their goal. They actually wanted their games to be experienced by everybody. So basically, hours after revealing the Nintendo deal, the second contract is in partnership with NVIDIA and promises 10 years of Call of Duty games making their way to NVIDIA's GeForce Now cloud gaming service. Now, whilst Microsoft has not completed their acquisition of Activision Blizzard, this new partnership will be enforceable when and if Microsoft takes control of the company. Now, right now, this contract is actually a binding promise. Let's just put it this way. So that, and it also has a stipulation. That means if they actually get the acquisition, that means this contract will be actually solidified, and they will actually be able to go through this deal. And if it doesn't go through, they're not obligated to anything. So that means they pretty much have the contract, and it's just pretty much as a stipulation. So it's almost like a pre-plan. So they say, hey, if we get this deal going through and everything, you get this contract, and you're set to go. So I don't know what's going to happen if it does not, but all I know is that there's probably some kind of clause in between, so that helps. But let's go further. There's ongoing scrutiny from global competition authorities to Microsoft's giant attempted acquisition, which gives the rights to some gaming biggest names, like from Candy Crush to Call of Duty. And then, of course, they were talking about that. But they said one of the biggest areas of concern around cloud gaming is which makes today's announcement of NVIDIA's Now partnership particularly important for Microsoft. The 10-year deal previously announced with Nintendo was already a big step, but a contract with Nvidia marks an even bigger step to address legal scrutiny. Microsoft's acquisition is thought to be particularly a particular threat to cloud gaming services, as Xbox Cloud Gaming Service will be far more exclusive games through the company's acquisition, blah, blah, blah. But then it says the GeForce Now partnership ensures to legislators that for the next 10 years at least, Call of Duty cannot be exclusive to Xbox Cloud Gaming. So that means that Xbox, with their Xbox Live and Xbox Cloud Gaming, will not be exclusive to Call of Duty. Nvidia will also have access to the cloud gaming as well. Now, the thing is that they extended their contract to PlayStation, and we're going to get into that right now. I feel that Sony's in a pickle. I mean, right now, Sony is right now in a huge pickle because, you know, they offered. I mean, it says it right here. Let's get into that. Yeah, let's get into that further details. It turns out Microsoft will be bringing Xbox games they play on PC, and we already established that, right? Microsoft is now listing all the companies and organizations to support the Activision Blizzard deal, which includes Nvidia, Valve, and more. Now, the more part that is going to be very interesting because we're going to get into that in 1 second. But then it says Microsoft says it is more than ready to answer regulators' concerns. Then it says think about the market in Europe, and then they had a huge little chart that just popped up out of nowhere. I mean, I should have actually taken a picture. I took a picture of that, but they actually had a huge pie chart, and it said think about the market in Europe. This is a market where Sony has an 80% share globally. It's about 70-30. In Japan, it's about 96-4. These numbers have been remarkably steady for the past 2 decades. Even last year, when there were issues with Sony's supply chain, they still came back strong. And then it says Sony also outsold Microsoft 69-31 towards the end of last year. Now, there's a lot of truth behind that because right now, Sony right now has market dominance. They really do. I mean, they actually have a global name. The name is huge. Everyone knows what PlayStation is. They actually got a big foothold in the UK. They actually lost their footing in Japan, but they still have some kind of presence. And of course, in the US and I think they started to gain ground. So right now, they actually have a huge presence, which is the reason why PlayStation 4 was actually one of their most successful consoles. PlayStation 2 is still the number one. But this says regulators are not here to protect super dominant companies. Believe me, I know. They actually put it out there. He said, listen, you know, I mean, yeah, we're a big company, but the thing is also that you're not there to protect us, and I think, but you shouldn't also be there to protect Sony as well, because right now they're a dominant force in the industry. It's like we are bringing Call of Duty to 150 million more people. Now here's the thing: you talk about 120 million PlayStation owners, you know, across the board, and some on Steam and what have you, but the thing is that they want them to reach more. So they can actually reach 150 more by going on mobile, to go on Nintendo, to go on Xbox, to go on Nvidia. You actually have more eyes on Call of Duty, and it makes it more inclusive, and also makes it more cross-platform. They're trying to get away from the exclusivity thing and actually make it, you know, to trying to cut it at its knees. This is good news. This is great news for everybody, because everyone's been complaining about, oh, how come I don't get this game? How come I don't get? They are actually right now opening the door to an opportunity that games that, you know, that people who didn't have access to before now will be able to have access to it and be able to experience those games that they haven't. Nintendo didn't have a Call of Duty. They don't have no Call of Duty, and people are like, oh, we don't need Call of Duty. Trust me. We're gonna want Call of Duty, because the thing is that, and they're talking about parity. They're talking about it's actually further on. They're talking about let's see. They were talking. As far as further down, he was talking about parity and stuff like that. We're gonna get further into that, but he's also talking exciting things about deep experiences, remedies, satisfied. They're talking about LinkedIn. They're talking about we haven't agreed for a deal with Sony. Now this is where it gets really, really spicy. This gets really, really spicy, and right now, PlayStation and Sony and the execs, and of course, when you talk about Jim Ryan, he probably was doing the butt dance right there. We haven't agreed on a deal with Sony, but I hope we will. Then he says also he actually pulled out the big, huge envelope that said Microsoft on it, and then he said. Smith has an envelope, and he said, I hope today is a day that will advance our industry and regulation in a responsible way. In other words, he was holding up that contract, the same contract that he actually put on the Sony's desk and said, here, we are offering you a 10-year contract, unheard of, because you think about some contracts and everything usually lasts about, first he offered 5 years. People actually made a mistake and they thought it was 3 years. No, it's not 3 years. It was a 5-year contract. It said, we're going to give you a 5-year contract. And I said, 5 years. The 10-year contract. That is well beyond the generation. That means next generation, if there's another Call of Duty, they could be able to actually have a marketing deal if they actually do a next generation Call of Duty. They could be able to actually have it on their console, be able to use it on the streaming services, whatever they want to do, But then, of course, they still have to pay Microsoft. Microsoft says, hey, we are offering you a peace offering. We're giving you a peace offering and opportunity to actually have access to Call of Duty. All you got to do, just sign the contract, and we will actually sit right there and make a deal with you. And here we go. And then it says Sony can spend all their energy to trying to block the deal. He goes on. They will reduce competition and slow evaluation of the market, or they can sit down with us and hammer out a deal. He got really spicy. Smith also says Sony says Call of Duty is a must-have product, but that must-have title was only available on 120 million consoles, which I was mentioning before. They actually want to reach out to more players. And if this deal goes through, it'll be available on 150 more devices. More is better. More players on Call of Duty. Bigger groundswell. More people have access to the game. What if nobody can get their hands on a PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X and they actually have a Nintendo Switch? They could be able to play Call of Duty. If they don't have console and they like PC, they have on Steam. If they actually have the GeForce Now, subscription, they could be able to stream Call of Duty. Win. I don't understand what the big deal is. Let's go on. Move on. Smith says he's more optimistic about the deal going through because of deals with Nvidia and Nintendo. Like I mentioned before, Nintendo actually did have a contract with them, which is actually huge. Let's get into that. Nintendo, believe it or not, actually had a contract. They actually signed, actually preemptively signed a contract with Microsoft to actually bring bring Call of Duty to their console. They have access to the console. They say, we'll sign a contract with you for 10 years, and we'll bring we'll bring Call of Duty to you for about 10 years. Now, of course, Brad Smith actually kind of broadened it a little bit. But let's get into that, shall we? Uh, Microsoft signs 10-year contract to bring Xbox games to Nintendo consoles. Check this out. So, this is Microsoft President and Vice Chairman Brad Smith announced today that the company signed a 10-year contract to bring Xbox games to Nintendo consoles. Then Smith actually took to Twitter to announce the binding contract. Now, remember, they actually had a contract, but it wasn't a binding contract. Smith took to Twitter to announce a binding contract promised to drop Xbox games and Activision titles like Call of Duty on Nintendo hardware at the same time these games hit Xbox consoles. The news comes as Microsoft roughly $69 billion acquisition of Activision is put under a magnifying glass by almost every regular imaginable. Now, this is big news. This is big. This is huge. I mean, how many Nintendo Switches are out there? 100 million now? Roughly about 100 million, give or take, 150, 120 million. Can you imagine all those people have access to Call of Duty? I mean, yeah, albeit it's probably not going to be as graphically as fidelity, the same graphic fidelity and what have you. And people will say, oh, but there's some kind of parity problem that's going to be. You know, what about if you decide to actually hook up with somebody who is actually playing on a Nintendo Switch? It's going to slow down the game, blah, 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 blah. I'm pretty sure they're going to probably have their own separate Call of Duty unless Nintendo announces their next generation Nintendo Switch or next generation console, which is a little bit more powerful, which I'm hoping that it actually happens because right now the sales of the Nintendo Switch is starting to slow down and they already kind of saturated the market just quite a bit. Almost anybody and everybody has a Nintendo Switch now. I think right now it's going to get to a point because Nintendo, banks on consoles and software. I think they're going to have to bow down and actually come up with another console very soon. And they were having a great time with their success of the Nintendo Switch, and I get it. But the thing is that Nintendo Switch needs to go next gen. But that's another subject. That's another topic I'm actually going to do in another tape. But we're going to get further into that probably next week. But yeah, look at this. This is huge. This is absolutely huge. I think Nintendo is is in a great position to actually take Call of Duty into like the stratosphere. And I'm pretty sure that they're gonna have their own version, or maybe a watered down version of the same game. Who knows? I don't know. It's too soon to tell. But I definitely have to tell you about another dark horse in the race. But we're gonna get into that. And it's a doozy. It's a doozy. Let's go into let's get back into this. We have a lot more to cover, trust me. A lot more to cover. So it says Brad Smith says that the deep and long experience of delivering remedies to satisfy the EU. Like I already mentioned that. Okay, we talked about Call of Duty. Yeah. Okay. Yes, I said all that. Oh yeah, here we go. Activision Blizzard has accused Sony of simply. Now here's the thing. Sony has not been playing nice. Sony has been trying their darndest to block this deal for the longest time. I don't understand why. I mean, to be honest with you and everything, they already have market dominance and believe it or not, yes, of course. Call of Duty is actually one of their number one titles on their console. I get it. But the thing is that even without Call of Duty, they're still be number one. And there's a lot of quality first party titles that just coming out for the console that actually a lot of people has been touting. I mean, and they have a Last of Us series on what is it on? I think it was on HBO. I mean, come on. So anyway, getting into the nitty gritties. Activision Blizzard has accused Sony of simply trying to protect its two-decade dominance in video games and believes the proposed merger will enhance competition and create greater opportunities for workers. Now, let's get into now. Another thing I did not mention is that I believe it's the European unions, the big European Union is actually backed Microsoft and I think on this deal, and they feel like this deal is going to be great for all the workers because they actually give them an opportunity to actually form unions within their companies, and if they get protections in case if anything happens, and they actually can be protected and also be paid and compensated. This is huge. This is for the video game market. This is huge. The video games have never had any type of union, and movies had unions, music has unions. Video game market never had a union, and this is the first time in a long time that it's long overdue. To be honest with you, that they actually have a union now, which is great, and not only the European Union but the American Union as well. Huge. I mean, right now Sony is actually having a conniption right now because they're sitting right there, they're looking at the deal and it's slipping through their fingers, but they are so darn stubborn. They won't move. They're not budging. So it says right here, we don't think it's realistic that one part of the company can be carved out from the rest. Now they're talking about Call of Duty. They're saying that because they're thinking about divestiture, something like that. Divestiture or something like that. I'm sorry, I'm butchering the word, but by divestiture, yes, I think. Whatever. But anyway, they don't want Call of Duty to be separated from the company. In other words, it's going to be all or nothing. Call of Duty is a part of Activision. Activision is Call of Duty. This is what we want because Call of Duty is a part of the company, and we actually are buying the company as a whole, not it's in some of its parts. So, and this pretty much standing. Microsoft's definitely standing the ground. Brad Smith actually just put it out there. He's saying that respond to the question about whether they were considered selling the brand to get the deal over the line. Then it says Smith is also talking about multi-platform gaming, and then he said that Call of Duty needs to run well on all consoles. So you have to remember, I was talking about parity. That's what they want. They want the games to actually run very well on all consoles. They don't want one console to be better than the other. Yes, Nintendo the console is not as powerful as the current gen consoles, but it's up in the air. But I hope Nintendo is willing to actually go for an upgrade and actually get make a more powerful console. I mean, I don't know what they're waiting for, but I think they're thinking less is more. But going further, then let's see. We're talking about the call on Nintendo Switch. Okay, he says Brad Smith said he has to believe the future is cross-platform. Yes, like I was mentioned before, cross-platform is exactly where they want to go. They also said the number one concern that people expressed about the acquisition is that Call of Duty will be less available to people, which we have proved is the opposite because, of course, they signed a deal with all these companies. And then, of course, we're going to go into further because actually one more company actually signed up for it and everything. And this is a doozy. Then it says people has expressed about the acquisition will be available to play. We proved the opposite. If this deal is approved, the game will be available to 150 million more players around the world. Now, there's a Brad Smith quote as he wraps up the press conference, and that was it. Now, then it says signed. Okay, now the recap is that they signed with Nvidia, Nintendo to GeForce Now, Nintendo Switch consoles, and then they're talking about games that are on PC to GeForce Now. But Sony still remains opposed to the deal. They just don't want the deal. Their contract is right there. It's right in there, right there at the grasp, and they choose not to do it. They're stubborn. They want to retain their market dominance. They feel like Call of Duty is actually their bread and butter, and without Call of Duty, they can't really maintain. that doesn't make any sense. But I feel like they're actually greedy. They actually want to get Call of Duty at a discount. And I have a feeling that there's a lot more behind that. But here's another thing. Now, you talk about a market leader when it comes down to acquisitions. Here's a company that kind of stepped in, and yeah, this is a good one. This is a good one. Oh my goodness gracious! I feel like I feel like this when as soon as I mentioned this name, I actually got kind of shocked because I felt like they would actually be one of the first ones that would be opposed to it, but no, they're not. They're not. And the team that we're talking about is Tencent. Tencent, the Chinese company who actually has all those amazing, has stake in almost everything. In Epic, they have stake in Square Enix. They have stake in we call it practically everything. Even oh my goodness, who does they have stake in Bungie? They have stake in all these companies, and right now they're approving the Activision Blizzard deal. They're supporting it, at least. But there's only one Chinese company that expresses concern, and we're gonna actually go and get into that. That it says while Microsoft proposed acquisition of Activision Blizzard deal is under regulatory scrutiny in the West, some Chinese companies have supported the deal. And then it says the company's gaming giant Tencent is reported to be one of them. Now, let's get into some of the nitty gritties here. Then it says 2 Chinese game companies, including Tencent, recently came out and supported Activision Blizzard, according to the Deal reporter. Okay, and then it says, however, there is one local firm that expressed concerns over the merger. The country's antitrust regulator, State Administrator of Marketing Regulation, or the SAMR. But the exact ratio of supporters to opponents of the deal among Chinese companies remains undisclosed. Then it says last April. That means the year before. Microsoft actually filed this bid to Microsoft Blizzard with the Chinese watchdog under a simplified procedure. SAMR later declined the request, said it would review the deal under a normal procedure. So in other words, they were actually going to do like a smaller procedure, but it turns out that they said, okay, you know what? We want to do it. We want to do it a normal way. Then it says the Chinese regulator wanted to first examine the concerns that the other global regulators, including the European Commission, had over the merger, and this includes potential damage to market competition and possibility of Microsoft making Call of Duty and other Activision Blizzard games exclusive to Xbox. Yeah, that'll do. I mean, I have a feeling that they would actually have some kind of issue with it, and pretty much all the regulators did, but of course they had to look into the details. But once all these people, all these companies started, all these regulators started to one by one approve the deal, and then the European was pretty much, I would say the European, the EU is actually the last stand, because the CMA, they're stubborn too. So the CMA and EU right now is like considered like the last companies that have to go through. But since Tencent hasn't publicly confirmed that report of the deal, but has given a long history of acquisitions, it will be no surprise if Chinese tech siding with Microsoft. But then it says on February 21st, this is just recent, on February 21st, Microsoft will defend the proposed acquisition and closing a hearing with the European Commission. The company will also be sued by the Federal Trade Commission later the year, but obviously, you know what? I have a feeling that because Linda Khan, she's a character. I think it's considered. She has no idea how the video game industry works. She's just doing it for clout, for the libertarian, for their agenda. I have a feeling that's what it's all about, and they consider it more of a win. if even if they lose, if they actually just bow down to some kind of concession, they consider it a win and say, "Yay, we actually defeated the giant. I think we actually got them to bow down to give us what we asked for." And they'll consider it a win under their belt because they actually go on against what we call big tech. You know what? That is complete nonsense. It makes no apparent sense whatsoever. I feel like the companies that that actually are trying to do well for the people and not the money are the people, the ones that actually deserve to actually try to grow. But of course, the company they don't think about that. They think they think that big companies or big tech companies are there to swallow up all these little companies and leave no competition, so they get all the money and they'll become like the name for whatever. Nonsense, pure nonsense, absolutely. But that's another subject that I don't want to get into the weaves of that one. But yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? That's absolutely nuts. But the party doesn't stop here, ladies and gentlemen. The party does not stop here. Ooh, buddy. Hold on to your lug nuts. It's time for an overhaul. Sony. If it's not one thing, it's another. And I have a feeling that right now, they are sitting right there and they already have some fire up there behind. But let's get into this. Turns out that PlayStation has an antitrust lawsuit which moves forward after a false start. Oof. And this was back in February 8th. But this is a big deal because I feel like Sony has been kind of sitting around, and they like to kind of skim the law a little bit because they feel like, oh, since we're a market leader, we could get away with anything. Well, it turns out that is not the case. Sony Interactive Incorporated, which notched a preliminary victory against antitrust litigation, challenged its restrictions on PlayStation game sales, must now face the consumer case. Yes, now you're against the consumers. Not we're talking about the people who actually pay their money to actually play your games. But it says Judge Rich Seaborg led the proposal. Class action moved forward to a Tuesday, 9 months after he attended the dismissed claims that Sony violated antitrust laws, which began to requiring all game sales to go through the PlayStation Store. Now, this is actually when when they were trying to, when you try to return games or get games on there and you actually want to return them, they actually go after you and they actually cut your subscription off. They give you no access to it until you actually pay the money back and keep the game, and then they'll give you your service back and say, okay, well, now enjoy your game. Have a nice day. So, but it's saying it's plausible that Sony sacrificed short-term profits for a long-term gain by ending profitable retailer relationships in a bid to corner the market. And then it says other potential reasons for the policy change to raise an affirmative defense that's better left for a later stage of litigation. So basically, it could be bigger than this. But it's saying the dispute is part of a wave of similar cases confronting companies that run dominant tech platforms, including Apple Inc., Google, a parent Alphabet company, and Valve, which operates the Steam store for PC gaming. The legal theories vary, but the lawsuits all involve claims that the company's illegal monopolized app sales. Now, this is a thing. They actually lock certain things behind their paywalls there, and they it seems like they have more of a monopoly on certain sales of their titles, and some of the consumers are getting hurt by that because they say, oh well, I can buy this game, but I can't return it. Like I'm pretty much locked to it. I can't do anything else with it, which is actually upsetting. But let me see. It's this. Let's see. I've done this away. Okay, so all right. Now, Seabird tossed the PlayStation case in July. Okay, so the antitrust jury and probably defined the market. It fell short connecting the dots. But now it's saying that video gamers leading the case fixed those flaws in their amended complaint that they found on Tuesday. So basically, some very smart gamers got together and said, "Oh, well, you know what? We found a little, we found your weakness. Okay, we found your Achilles heel. The new allegations is about how the PlayStation game market works. If true, just barely established that Sony's only conceivable rationale was to cut out competitors." Wow. So basically, it's saying that it's giving a monopoly of certain titles on their service, and not anyone else. Not even Steam, which is just very upsetting. Then it says the Council for Gamers, also represented variously by Joseph Savary law firm. Okay, there's a lot of law firms. They basically and Sony's represented by Schilling. Okay, basically the case. Now, this is something that's been going on, and I think it's still going on. But this antitrust, I think, actually is pretty much getting into what they're going into now. Let me explain. You see, Sony right now wants Call of Duty really, really bad. They want Call of Duty to, be, I can't call it exclusive, but they want to have the exclusive contract with Call of Duty, so that way they can be able to get, the profits and the sales. And they actually do have they're giving Activision a bigger chunk of the sales money because they want to keep Call of Duty, on their console, because it sells more consoles and they actually get more profits from it. But the thing is that, with what's going on with the antitrust, it turns out that Sony has more of a monopoly on not only the sales but also the profits on their service, their service. And if you buy a certain game, any game, and you buy the game and you try to return the game, you actually get penalized for actually trying to return it, because you paid the money already and you actually try to return it. They can refuse because you already paid the money, and for some weird clause, if you actually try to go to the bank and actually put a block or something like that on there, they have in their mind, in their legal right, they could shut your service off and say, all right, well, you know what? Now you don't have access to anything until you actually put back the money and you purchase the game forthright. If you buy the game, we will give you your services back. So even if you don't like the game, if you press that button, if you press the buy button, you're guaranteed to have that game for life, because you won't be able to get rid of that game. If you made a mistake, too bad. Sony's got your money, so you can't do nothing about it. But you know what? It's sad, because now gamers are getting fed up and said, you know what? Now we have to put you to court, because that's unfair. It's anti-competitive. It's antitrust. It's anti-consumer. Sony, what you doing? Makes no apparent sense. Wow. But what a day! Man! What an amazing time to be a gamer. Ooh, wow. So, what we went through a lot of stories here, and the thing, I really wanted to know what you think. How do you feel about all this? It doesn't boil. I mean, do you feel like, you know, all this stuff that's going on behind the scenes and everything, you just don't want to be a part of it, or is it getting interesting? I mean, personally, I think Call of Duty, everyone should have the opportunity to actually play Call of Duty. I mean, it's actually Activision's flagship title. It really is. They earn millions of dollars, not as much as Candy Crush, of course, with through King, but that's another story altogether. But you got great titles, amazing IP, and with if Activision actually decides, you know, when they actually merge up with Microsoft, they might have more carte blanche to be able to bring out more original titles, more ambitious titles, not the same old titles. I mean, I would love to see another Tony Hawk game, a proper Tony Hawk game. You know, Crash Bandicoot, Spyro. What else? With Blizzard, you know, they actually put more time and effort into Diablo 4. Don't you want Diablo 4 to be the most excellent game out there, and not that tirade of a mess of Diablo 3? You know, don't you want all that effort to bring out a proper Call of Duty game coming out next, instead of like another like live service type of game? Maybe a story that's actually has more meat in it. I mean, yeah, they're gonna bring out another Call of Duty, and probably Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 might be a remake, you know. But I don't know. What do you think? Tell me how you feel. Tell me how you feel in the chat. You know, I am glad that you guys actually were patient with me with all the good stuff that's going on. And of course, please, if you actually like anything, please go ahead and like and subscribe to my channel. You know, it only takes a few minutes. Also, you can actually look at all the things below. You can go to all those articles and read them for yourself and the thing. And hey, if I'm wrong in something, hey, feel free to let me know. You can go to my Twitter. That's at HUDXero. That's HUDXERO. And hey, I guess that's it. So let's do a recap. What's been going on? I've been doing a lot of moving around. You know, of course, I've been doing a lot of cleaning. It's just a lot of great things that are going to happen in the future. I'm actually going to be doing more of a regular schedule. My work schedule is actually going to be, you know, it's going to kind of, you know, fudge things up a little bit. But I'm going to try to do more streaming in the middle of the week. I actually got some more classic consoles that I'm actually going to be tying myself up and waiting for the materials to come in the mail. I'm going to be doing some Genesis gaming. I have a review that's coming up very soon on an undisclosed title. I'm waiting on another code that's from another company. I don't know if they're going to give it to me. I'm hoping they do. If they do, that's great. You'll know about it first. And of course, there's also my review on Hogwarts Legacy. I haven't got my full review yet because the game is absolutely taking my entire life. It's just so much into that game, and the game is just so good. It really is a great game. And then, of course, my review also on Atomic Heart, which is actually going to be coming soon as well. When all this controversy kind of dies down a little bit, I'm actually going to put more emphasis on that as well. And of course, I'm actually going to probably do things a little bit different. You might see some classic commercials kind of in between, or in between intermissions. That's going to be happening soon. And of course, I'm actually going to be working on trying to get some more, some better intro. I'm actually going to getting that designed professionally. You're going to see that probably sometime in April. But yeah, that's about it. That is all, folks. Let's let's close out with a couple of words that I always like to tell all my friends. Stay awesome, and please, oh please, game on.